Do you have reverb sounding like this? Or maybe even like this? But you really want them to sound like this. Hop in, because that's what I want to show today. When it comes to reverb, there is one thing you have to understand if you really want to improve your reverb game. And reverb is, for me, the most fundamental effect there is. You have to master it. Listen to this. Gorgeous sound coming from a preset pack I'm preparing. Probably won't be out when you are seeing this video, but maybe next week. The most important effect that you have to understand with the reverbs, when you put them as an insert right on your sound, they will change the level of your sound and the transient behavior of your sound drastically. Let me show you. This is how it our sound. I want you to watch out the levels and the loudness contour of this sound. We have changed the level of the sound from -5 to -17, -12 dB with reverb. And even more importantly, we changed the character of the sound, the transient behavior. The sound is mashed up together. Our dynamic range is much shorter. It is not a necessarily bad thing, but most of the time, it is not actually what you want. You want your reverb most of the time as a spatial effect. It's not there to change the dynamics of your sound, but just add a bit spatial feeling. To avoid this, you can either use return channels or a parallel chain. I'm going to use parallel chain simply because it's easier to explain. When I design my reverb, the most important thing that I consider is the dynamic character of the sound. Am I having something transient, like drums or pluck sounds, or am I having something steady? And eventually, do I want shorter, snappier reverb or longer sustained reverb? This oftentimes goes for the longer, but for the snappier sound, you can actually go for either short or long reverb. Hence, I'm going to just use shorter sounds to explain both concepts. Listen to these drums. Transient sound. One thing that I hate is the sound of a transient sound in a reverb. It will sound like this. Just a parallel chain, we are only hearing the reverb now. Do you hear that fluttery sound? When these sounds hits together with transient sound, it really messes up really bad. So when it comes to this type of sounds, the first thing I would look for is actually dealing with the transient and then shaping the reverb. There are many ways to do this. The first thing is pre-delay settings on your reverb. I'm going to use Pro R2 because it's much more visual, but this option exists almost virtually every reverb. When you have zero pre-delay, look how the transients of the drum and the reverb aligns. We are almost having exactly the same transient depending on the character of the reverb. Either you have attack settings or there's an initial attack on your reverb. In this case, we have a little bit initial attack for our play. For example, if I were to pick modern, we will see the transients are aligning much better. But for drums, I like plate, I like that initial attack a little bit. Now, what you could do to give room for this transient is actually just using pre-delay. And if you take a look at it again, do you see how we moved the reverb to the side? The more you give room, the more it will be moving to the right. Do you see how much we move now? The bigger the pre-delay, the bigger the room feel. But for snappier, tighter reverbs, we are looking for snappier delays. Now, we solved one problem. So if you take a look at here, we're really letting initial transients go through before the reverb comes in. But we haven't dealt with these peaks that is creating this flooded type of sounds. Let me solve the reverb now. Do you hear that? Now, you have two options. You can either shave after, but this won't solve the flutter problem. But if you shave this transient before it hits to the reverb, then that flutter problem immediately will be suited. You can use anything that you like. I'm going to use Crafter because it just gives me a bit more option. The more you clip, the more feather sound we'll get. Much more smoother, right? Now there's a takeoff. You don't want to cut so much so that it turns into this ball. What I like to do, just shave the transient. So I don't have these things. this is not good enough for me still. The other thing that I like to do, for example, remove some of the super highs and super lows from the initial sound and adjust the resonance sound so that there is less flutter afterwards. The simplest way to do it is a EQ. Now we have this much less this flutter. This will also give a color to your reverb. Darker, lighter, tighter. In this case, we are focusing more mid. I'm really trying to get this tight room feeling with slightly dampened highs. Right? And this is exactly what it is giving. Brighter room, darker room. And the reverb's tails looks much more better. Now, I'm just following the reverb. Actually, you should be doing this together with your drums. Right? How beautiful it sounds already. Now, if you're really obsessed with flutters, at the moment I don't think there's anything really bothers me much, but if you are really obsessed, you can actually use something like Soothe and attack those if you like to. Without. And there's one more thing that you can do. At the moment, our pre delay actually gives enough space for the transients and we don't have any problem. But let's say we still want to make transients even better. The simplest way to do is actually taking a compression and sidechaining to the right sound of the drums. This will create a more transient shape inside the reverb. Look how beautiful that reverb shape looks like. They really perfectly fit to each other. The one more thing that you can do actually align the decay time to the BPM of your track. I don't care about that much. I only care about what I hear. So what I would do oftentimes, something like this. Hear how much difference that this simple reverb makes on the drum sound. We really feel that real room right away. Without. Right? It really feels super real. And you can easily adjust the mix for your taste. Maybe you want a slight room. Right? Or maybe you want a bit more room. This is how I create my tight reverbs. If you feel like you are going to try this in your next track, please consider like and subscribe. It really helps a ton. If you like samplers, you have to see this. This is a new Lander sampler. First, you pick your sample folders, and then it scans your folder, and then fun begins. Let's say by using advanced filters here, we can actually choose what type of sound that we want to try to play. Let's say I want, in this case, hi-hats. One shot, length doesn't matter, and load the samples. Now we have tons of different hats loaded on our keyboard to play. Instead, let's go for something like a loop and synth. Once you enter chromatic mode, now you can play your sample like an instrument. And then, for example, cut as you like. Change the attack decay. And then right into it, we have these cool effects. The workflow is super fast and nice. And there's of course slice mode. And cherry on top, build on sequencer. Let's generate random. Super fun to play. The Lander sampler is actually included in Lander Studio, including 40 other plugins like Vocaline, Lander Mastering Pro, and so on. With the link below, you can get 20% discount if you like to try Lander Studio. And thank you, Lander, for sponsoring this video. But sometimes tight reverb is not what you are looking for. What you're looking for, a whole, an ambience, something that really acts like a pad in your beautiful sound. Listen to this. Another sound from my upcoming preset pack. I'm really doing my best to make this coming out as fast as possible, but you know, good things takes time, so sometimes 5 presets takes me a whole day. It is what it is. That beautiful warm serum sound. I never thought that I will say that, but here we are, 2025, and Serum is one of the warm sounding synthesizers. So what we need, a pad reverb sound right underneath these perfect plucky sounds, right? I like to use whole type of sounds for these because they are just so beautiful and warm. But now we need to make the reverb even more sustained like a pad. Pad sounds means that the sound is sustained oftentimes. If your reverb are going up and down, that is not a pad. This time we are going for longer decay time. The sound is already long and sustained. Now, contrary to the other one, this time we don't want pre-delay. We don't want the sound ducking all the time. So what I'm doing, remove that pre-delay. And what you want to go actually longer decay so the sound doesn't coming in and out. It's only like this warm, hugging sound. But we want to really get rid of all those attack sounds from the plug. We have a good amount of attack. This time I'm going to use limiter because it's a pad type of sound. I want the ducking as clean as possible. Here we go. It's like floating, right? Now, similar to the previous one, I want the sound to be colored before it hits the reverb. So I want this to be a bit warmer and darker, like a dark hole. So EQ before the limiter. So gorgeous. Now, the problem with this type of sound, long reverbs tends to mask the transient sound. The way I like to get rid of it is using like a suit. You can use a new Fab Filter Pro. You just need the resonance suppressor, but use the other way around. So I'm sidechaining the original sound. And what I'm doing is like opening up these spaces for the plucky sound. So even though sound is pad type of sound, there is pockets that the original sound fills in. So it doesn't mask that much. See that? Together. You see how we flow? How much difference this makes? Now there is one extreme example of this sustained sound, the shimmers. The shimmers tends to be super sustained, it's just like one single sound because the shimmer reverbs oftentimes feed itself on. So that feedback loop creates even more sustained, stable sound. One shimmer, the one that I really like to use. Now, I'm gonna still sculpt the sound because I have the dark hole, so I don't need super lows. Get all the highs, put into the limiter, right? And use soothe again. The reason this works so well with the hole is that they are really different colors. Listen, hole, shimmer. Together. And all together now. Now the mixing part, depending on how you feel, how your taste, if you want more emotion, more contrast, more drama, increase that shimmer level. You want this darkness, maybe a bit more depressed, then you can bring down that shimmer. Increase at home. And down. Isn't that just amazing? If you want to see me going real deep into mixing, I have a whole mixing course. Link is below. If you want to stay here and have more pro tips, I have a video over here too. Take a look.